Well, finally, now that I have some time off, I'm going to try to start comparing the Batrium monitoring system with the Electrodacus, and I already have the Batrium installed on this 16S LiFePO 4 setup, and it's working pretty good. It's a little finicky sometimes, but overall it does a good job. I do like how you can see very clearly what each cell is doing. All you got to do is hover the mouse over those blue bars and it'll tell you exactly what the current voltage is at. Also, I did buy a lot of the Electrodacus products. I have a SBMS0 there, the big one, and then two SBMS0s with the DSSR20, two of those, just to play around with. I'm going to hook up the two DSSR or SBMS0s to there. I have, since they only go up to maximum of 8S, I'm going to have to use two of them on here and sort of split it. So we'll see how that works out. But I just wanted to show that finally I'm going to take the time to try to see what happens here. This is the first actual comparison between the Batrium system for monitoring and the Electrodacus SBMS0. This is representing cells 9 through 16 on here, and the graphical representation is almost identical on there, where the last 4 cells are a little bit higher than the left 4 cells. So, and that makes sense. This actually using the 2 in place of 1 has made it work out so that it charges faster and it tops up faster, but somehow it also lasts longer than the other cells down there. So this actually makes perfect sense. I'm glad to see it. So let's see what happens here. Cell number 1, which is cell number 9, is showing 3.317 volts, and if you hover over the 9, just a minute, Astrid, 3.32 volts, 3.318 volts. Yep, right. And I just turned on all 3 of the inverters. They're just idling. Output's just idling right now. And we're showing 4.3 amps on the shunt there. And the load is 4.211. Let's see, 222, 4.26. You know, these things are really very closely matched. So there's the shunt that is feeding that amperage information to this one, and then I have only these right-hand cells paired up, and then I had to split the system right there. This shunt is going to be for the second set of 8 cells that go down. So the negative obviously is on this, or sorry, negative is on this end, positive is on this end. So this will become the positive end for the second SBMS0. So here's a setup for the bottom 8 cells. I have I'm just about to plug this thing in for the first time. I'm going to see if I can hold this with my chin. I'll plug this in for the first time. Hopefully I don't let the smoke out. Alright, let's try that again. Alright, I'm going to try to show it. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Try to show what happens when I plug this Electrodacus in for the first time. SBMS0. Well. Alright, first time plugging this in to back here. Let me get it straight and then I'll shove it in. Okay, it goes right there. Alright, there's always a tense breath holding moment. Ready? So the first thing you got to do is tell it what kind of cells you have. So you go down one step to parameter settings, enter, and you tell it what kind you have. realize it was right there under my thumb the first time. How do you do this? LTO, no. LI code, oh, LFP, there you go. Lithium iron phosphate. We have 8 cells, and I have, well, they were 260 amp hour. They're all testing between 220 and 240, so I'm going to tell it. But I have 2 in parallel with each other, so it's really like 440 amp hours, so I'm going to set that. Come on. I exit and I have to hit store. Okay, then you unplug and replug that same cable. At least you know it's not going to fall out accidentally, huh? Come on. Might have to edit this part out. Another thing I got to change is I got to make this one Wi-Fi. Where's the Wi-Fi? No. Let me get out of this. There we go. Monitoring. You can see all the cells have capacity on them. Now here's the thing, I've never been able to figure out how to get out of some monitor mode back to the parameter settings. I've always ended up just unplugging it and replugging it in. So, anyways, the bottom line is I have to change the Wi-Fi to from something other than 000 because I already have Wi-Fi 000 on the other one. Well, you know what? Before I do that, I gotta hook up this shunt. I'll do that. I'll be right back. I just plugged in the shunt. I am having a hard time doing this without third hand here. Let's see. Device setting, let's try that. Okay, so the Wi-Fi, see I already have one that's named SBMS000, so I gotta make this one 001. Now there's no store function for this, so I don't know if that's going to default back. So now here we go. Save device settings. Alright, good deal. Little smiley face too. So let's try to go back and compare this with the other one. Here's what the Batrium system says. So I was testing these more positive 8 cells yesterday, all the way from 9 up. So let's just see what they are. The cell number 9 is 3.31 on here, and that's cell number 1 on this one. It's 3.316. So I'd say that's pretty good. Now let's go down to cell number 8. That's the first one on the most positive one on the second SBMS0 on the bottom stack, 3.32. So that's down at the bottom there. This one is showing 3.312. I mean, that's within, you know, tenth, or not even a tenth, 100th of a volt. Plus you get 1,000th of volts here, so you can really watch what's going on. I kind of like that. I don't think they used enough. Maybe they just didn't want you to freak out about thousandths or whatever, and I understand that, but it's nice to be able to go to thousandths here. So anyways, this is two SBMS0s hooked up. The right SBMS0 is using that shunt, and then in between the 8th and 9th cell, this shunt is providing the signal, current signal, to the one over here. Okay. Anyways, let's turn on the inverters. So that's number 3. Really should do, that's 2. There's 1. Oops. Don't tell people how I live. Oh, that's great. Now I have the battery power applied with all those 3 switches onto these MPP Solar LV5048 inverters, charger inverters. They're also solar chargers. So right now I'm just playing around with these SBMS0s from Electrodacus. Dacian just gave me some advice about how to hook up these shunts. I really appreciate that from him. He's always great about answering questions. I really appreciate that. My whole point was to compare this to the Batrium system. This is a hugely expensive system. And yeah, you get the nifty little Batmons there. But man, that is expensive. So I just wanted to see what the accuracy difference would be between the Electrodacus setup, like if you have 2 SBMS0s versus 1 Batrium. I mean, you're still money ahead with the Electrodacus. And plus you have Wi-Fi monitoring on this. You'd have to have 2 access points, I guess, connected at the same time, because each one of these is its own independent Wi-Fi access point that you have to use. I have no idea. I'm not a tech guy in that way, how you'd set something like that up. But this is what it would look like if you had the 16S cell configuration. Now I'm going to turn on the inverters. So what's kind of nifty about these LV5048s is if there's no load, or if there, I should say, if the inverter part isn't on and there's no load, they actually shut themselves down. But then you gotta turn them on, all 3. So the one on the left is the master. It's number 1, number 2, number 3. So the number 1 is the one that controls all of the other outputs on there. I found you still have to set the settings manually on each one to match, otherwise they don't do their thing. But now they've all kicked on. So output's 120 volts on each one of them. And then idling with the inverters with no load, you should still see some sort of a load or a draw on them. Right now we're pulling 225 watts, 4.2324 amps, something like that. Let's see what we have over here. There was some confusion on... No, there's no confusion. Okay, so this is showing plus 2.0, and that's showing -4. So I must have the leads set up backwards, or plugged in backwards, one or the other. But anyhow, the current is pretty close, and it also could be the fault of these shunts too. I mean, I don't know what the accuracy rating is on these shunts. So anyways, we've got, this one seems to be closer matching over here, 4.17. Now it's at 4.18. You know, that's absolutely accurate. Plus I did have this one running yesterday, so it's gonna have a little bit of a head start on figuring out what the capacity is at right now on these. I think, if that's how that works, I'm not sure. But there's a lot of unknowns with the Electrodacus stuff. That's why it's great that Dacian has that forum that he monitors so closely and is so quick about answering questions, because there are so many questions that I can come up with, that I have come up with, that wasn't covered in the documentation. So it's great that he's available to answer things like that on his forum. But anyhow, this is what it looks like. 16S with the Electrodacus SBMS0s, 2 of them. I got the wiring issue figured out on those amps. I did have the wires plugged in backwards, which is not uncommon for me. I'm glad I didn't let the smoke out. Seems to be working very well. Now they're even closer matched in the amperage. 4.0 it's right hovering at on both of them. And over here on the Batrium it's also right about 4 amps. There you have it. Here's the Electrodacus SBMS0 remote output here. So all you got to do is download a zip file, extract it, and then you know, save it, extract it to somewhere where you'll easily access it. All you do is you go down to hook up to the SBMS000, whatever the number is that you've decided to call it. And then you open that zip file, which opens your browser and takes you right to it. Couldn't be too much easier than that. So I've got that running there, and this is the right hand, the top 9 cells represented by 9 to 16 over here. So what I have noticed since I've had the SBMSs hooked up is it's balancing it to a finer degree. Prior to hooking them up, there was a greater differential between the highest over here, which is the multiple cell setups in here, and the lower ones, which are the 2 paralleled larger cells. So these are the first, let me think about this. So this is like 2 here, 2 big ones here, this is 2 big ones here, 2 big ones here, 2 big ones here. So this is the first actual pair past that. I did match them. I tried to match my capacity, tested each one of them, and then I used the program. Excuse me. What was the name of that program I used? It's called Repackr, R-E-P-A-C-K-R, to create the pairs so that it would be the most balanced across the entire sequence here. It includes the pairing. I did the totaling up of these. What is that? That's 100.6 on that one. That's what, 147. So I mean, some of these have a lot less capacity, but when you match them up and you pair them, it balanced out actually really nicely. And when it charges, it goes up shockingly evenly, using the internal chargers built into these MPP Solar LV5048 units. I'm going to try. I do have 2 of the little DSSR20s, the older versions of them, and I'm going to hook these up. They don't have the bypass function either to go to the heater, so I'm going to have to get some of those. I also have an SBMS 120 over here that I was going to use to test out as well, but haven't gotten that yet. This is under load. It's a dreary, dank day here, and I'm trying to use the power that's in our batteries, because just a few days ago, on a perfect day in September when you don't need a lot of air conditioning, I created and gave to the power company at 2.9 cents a kilowatt hour 3 times the amount of electricity that we used actually at the place here. So I'm trying to run these things down. I gotta have the lights off in here because the Electrodacus SBMS0s are a little bit dim, but I understand that if you're going to have your displays on constantly for years and years, they can't be just blazing away. You don't want that anyway. So here's what's going on. It's been on. I used it at the same rate, approximately between 1,000 and 2,000 watts, as different things cycled on and off, like refrigerators and air conditioners and things like that. Use it for about, I'd say maybe 6 to 8 hours yesterday, and now today I just turned it on a couple hours ago, and the state of charge is the interesting thing up here, the negative 1.5. It gets down to below 0 and then it resets itself, and I think it's doing self-calibration is what I think is going on. But I was going to compare this to the Electrodacus under load. So we got 3.27 volts on that cell. They're all going to be hovering right around in that region. 3.29 for the multi-packs there. So let's see what we got here. 3.27 on the lower ones and 3.29 on the higher ones. So this is absolutely every bit as accurate. Here's the bottom cells. The lowest one is 3.268 there. So, yep. Just wanted to show it under a bit of a load. What's interesting also is on this shunt on the lower ones, this is from positive to negative. That's the most negative end down there. This shunt here, I didn't change any different parameters. This one's still showing 78% state of charge, and on the top is showing 26% state of charge, and that's from the most positive end to the top of the shunt on that one. So I don't know what's going on with that. I haven't been able to come up with an explanation for it. This is what it looks like charging through the landline, dumping in 4,350 watts right now. And we'll see what the Electrodacus is reading here. Plus 75 amps. Can't even see that one down there. Plus PV is almost zero, of course. 70 amps, 71 amps, 70 amps. Alright, that's all working. So it's ramping it down, I guess. Finally got the quirks worked out of it. I have 4 250 watt panels working on it, and it's only bringing in about 500 watts total. It's approaching solar noon here. So we're showing 9.2 amps going in, and on the first one we've got 9.2 amps with, what's weird is the PV1 only has 1.9 amps on it, and it's sort of backed up with this where it's showing 9 amps, 9.2 amps on the battery, but only 1.8 amps on the PV, and I'm kind of confused why that's happening at the moment. This is pretty interesting. We're at 40.5% state of charge after it was down at what it claimed to be zero. It wasn't zero, but it was below 3.25 volts, something like that. So it was coming down the back side of the capacity. It's only been charged by the two SBMS0s. You can actually see the solar pattern there today. It was a better day than I thought it was going to be. Actually, it was supposed to be cloudy most of the day, but see, the issue is I still can't figure out why this one says 73% and this one says 27%, even though they're on the same, they have the same number of cells that they're tracking. So I'm sure it's something simple I'm missing, but anyways. The peak was, I think, about, see, we're still at almost 3 amps even at this time of day. It's almost 5 o'clock here, and we're definitely on the downside of the max power today. I'd say these things work pretty darn good, actually. Just turned the inverters on at 5 o'clock, and we had about 900 watt draw.